The romance in this book is so good that it literally completely rewired my whole brain chemistry and like neurological paths, and I gaslighted myself into developing a crush with one of my classmates in high school for 2 years because I was convinced that he looked exactly like the description of the male lead from this book. That's how bad I was. Like, I was fully delusional because this romance was just that good. Hello everyone, this is Darkest Hour Reads, and today I want to bring you some big recommendations, but I want to focus solely on romance because many of you, if you know me already, know that I have quite a lot of disdain around romance, specifically certain subgenres of romance, especially spicy bigs. But I was on TikTok the other day, and one of you guys, one of my followers, mentioned or just sent a comment saying, "You always mention all the romance books that you don't like, but what are the romance books that you actually enjoy? Because it seems that you're just hating." And to be fair, you are so right. You are so real. It seems that I am always constantly bone picking or like picking apart all the books that I don't like within romance. So today I want to bring you guys the books that I do like in romance, just so we can have a fair chance of romance books in general. So let's start, guys. But before we start, just a little disclaimer. I feel like I'm always giving you guys disclaimers. If you have seen any of my videos or if you regularly see my content, you know the kind of videos that or the kind of books that I read and recommend. So if you are expecting either contemporary, fluffy romance books, this is not your video. Or if you're looking for spicy books as well, maybe you should be looking at other videos. But if you're open to discussion and if you're open to read other types of books, please feel free to stay. Like, you're always more than welcome. I think some of the recommendations could fit your contemporary style, and if you like that romance, even the better. But yeah, just to let you know, guys, this is not going to be a fluffy romance type of book recommendation. Now, let's start with the big recommendations. And I feel like I'm blushing already just because I am not used to read romance, but these books are just so good that I have to recommend them to you guys. Just to let you know, guys, there's going to be two classic or historical books and then two contemporary books, or contemporary, say in the 2010s. Okay, I'm an old woman, so therefore the recommendations that I'm going to be giving you about romance are from when I used to read romance, which was when I was like 16, 17 more or less. So they are still old books, right? But yeah, the first book that I want to recommend you guys is White Nights by Fyodor Dostoyevsky. And I honestly love this book so much. And even though it didn't finish as I expected or as I had expected and wanted, this book is still one of the greatest romance books that I have ever read. Just let me explain you why. For those who haven't read the book, White Nights is about a young lonely man living in St. Petersburg who basically, during one of his night walks, saves a crying woman from being harassed in the street. Obviously, they both immediately bond because of their shared experience with the trauma of the harassment, but also at the same time because they both have one thing in common, and is their loneliness. So obviously they decide to meet every night just to keep each other company, but with one condition, and is that they can never fall in love. And obviously both of them agree because they keep meeting for the next 4 nights. And the more the story develops, we understand the story behind those characters. So we learn the story of the narrator or why he is so lonely, but we also hear the story of Nastenka, which is the crying woman, who explains to the narrator that she is lonely because she has a very overbearing grandmother, but also the only person that she loves, which is his her young lodger. He has left to Moscow for a year to just basically work, even though he has promised her that he would come within 1 year. 1 year has passed and there's no signs of him, no letters, no nothing. So obviously she is upset and lonely again after meeting this gentleman that she falls in love with. I'm not going to say anything else about this story because obviously I don't want to give you guys spoilers and then ruin the story for you. But the main topics of the story overall is are loneliness and unrequited love, as you can expect. And what I've really liked about this story is the fact that you see the process of heartbreak within the two characters, right? You see how they try to be better, or they try to be in denial about their loneliness and just try to be overly positive. But then when they meet someone who just matches their vibe, for example, or like just someone who is as lonely as them, they slowly realize that they are lonely, or they slowly accept that they are lonely and try to give each other company, right? Then we see how happy of and full of love they are, just because they finally have found someone who is like them, just to basically the story, or just to basically be stripped again into loneliness, or be separated and just go back to loneliness because of these unrequited love or these experiences that they have, right? I just think it's so beautiful, but also so gut-wrenching. And I think I really like this story because of the ending, right? Because we see no matter what happens, or no matter how lonely the main character is, he will still wish well on everyone, and he still wishes happiness for everyone, just because he understands how lonely things can be, or like how lonely life can be. So therefore he doesn't wish that on anyone, and he just wishes them happiness. I think it generally makes me so emotional. That's why I like this book so much. And also it's really short, so you can read it in one afternoon or like in 3 hours. Please read White Nights. Moving on to the second recommendation that I have, and I think this book comes as a surprise to no one, because if you like the books that I enjoy, or like if you enjoy the same genres that I do, I know for a fact that you have read this book, and I know for a fact that you are obsessed with it, or with any sort of media that is related to this book, and it's The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. I feel like just by saying the name, it's just so obvious that I would enjoy this book, that it just makes me like so expected, and like, yeah, it's just, yeah, I have to recommend this book. I have to recommend The Phantom of the Opera, of course, but not for the reasons that you guys might think. Well, maybe, but we'll see. Starting with a summary for those who haven't read the book. So The Phantom of the Opera is about an opera house and the supposed ghost that haunts the area, that haunts the opera house and all its corners and backstage. Basically, the main story is that there are two managers that manage the opera house, and one day, after finding a corpse of one of the former employees, they decide to retire and just leave before it's too late for them, right? And once in the last performance, or during the last performance before they retire, the prima donna, which is the prime, or like the main singer of each opera, Carlota, falls ill and fails to come into the opera to do the performance. But the performance, or the opera itself, the act, is saved by Christine Dae, who is a former ballerina turned singer, and makes the performance of a lifetime. Obviously, after this performance, everyone seems to be enchanted with Christine. Not only the fellow co-workers and also the new managers of the opera house, but also two more people, which is Raoul de Chagny, which is one vicomte in like a very important person within Paris, who is also Christine's former play date when they were younger, but also the ghost himself, because he asks the new managers through a letter to make sure that Christine is the new prima donna for the next performances, but also that one of the boxes, number 5, is kept for him privately and no one can enter in. The first thing that I have to say is that this story is so cunty. No matter what type of media I am consuming about this story, I know that it's always going to eat. The book, 8. The film, the 2004 film with Emmy Rossum, 8 The House Burns Down. The theatre play in West End, 8 The House Burns Down. Like, that was the biggest slay that I have ever seen. It was just so good. The costumes, the actors, the talent that they had, the props, everything was such an amazing experience. Oh my god, it just made me so much more obsessed with the story, and it made me enjoy the story even more, if it's even possible. Do you know what I mean? It's just, I have no words to describe how much I love this story and how much I love the general vibe of it and how much effort everyone puts to describe this story, right? But there is one thing, and I think that's something that people really, really miss with this book, or like with any content. And it's the fact that it doesn't matter who you like, if you like the Phantom or if you like Raoul, both of them are shitty people. Both of them are the worst option for Christine. Even if Raoul is slightly better theoretically, or even if you think that Eric is better because dark romance, both of them don't have Christine, or like don't have Christine's dreams and passions and fantasies as a priority for her. They just have this idea of Christine that they want her to feed into, and then basically they just try to mold her into what they want, right? Both the Phantom and Raoul as well. Like, Raoul has this idea of Christine that is like so pure, so amazing, and it's like, oh, she was my playmate when I was younger, so I know that she's still this girl, right? Even though it has like 15 years have passed, and he just still has this idea of Christine. Whereas for the Phantom, he has this idea that she is the prima donna and she is like his savior, or like he's like dark goddess, whatever. And it's just like, they both have this very specific idea of Christine that she does not fit into, but they just try to make her fit. And she's too kind and too young as well to realize that they are both doing the same thing. It's like they both are exotic bird collectors that they want to catch Christine, who is an exotic bird, and just keep it in a cage just for them to enjoy. And now, after saying all of this, I beg your guys' pardon, because when I saw the film, so the 2004 film with Emmy Rossum, I have to be honest, I was rooting for Eric just because he looked like that, okay? Like, I don't care that he's butchered, or I don't care that he is technically made to look ugly. I just saw these and I was like, smash. Going into the other 2 book recommendations, so these are the contemporary books that I recommend. And just FYI, these contemporary books are from like 2009, which was 15 years ago, okay? This just makes me want to retire, because I read them when they came out, or like when they were translated in Spanish at that time. But yeah, they came out 15 years ago. That is nuts. But yeah, the first book that I want to recommend is Hush Hush. If you know, you know. But if you don't, just to let you know, this book is literally the epitome of dark romance, okay? All the girlies that were teenagers at the time it came out, all of them read them. Like, all of them read the whole series because it was just that good. It was the equivalent of the whatever dark romance book we have at the moment, right? But I think I have to give context here because oh my god, I'm just gonna I think you're gonna have a wrong idea of me now after me explaining this story and the context. But basically, I recommend this book because when I first read it, I was around like 16, okay, let's say 15, 16, yeah. But I read it as as a fan fiction of Zayn Malik from One Direction, just because I was obsessed with them. And I read the book, well, I read the fan fiction. I was like, this is the best shit that I have ever read. And then I realized that it was actually a book that they literally just changed the name of the main character for Zayd. And oh my god, I literally went through the whole series in like a week. And there's like 4 books, right? I read the whole series, and I remember I just kept watching it. I just kept thinking about Zayn instead of actually the main character. And everyone who has read Hush Hush or who has read the fan fiction, they know what I'm talking about. They know. And to be honest, I read this fan fiction in Facebook, okay? Like, that's how old I am. There weren't any fanfiction.net or like there weren't any AO3 during my time. I was reading these fanfictions in Facebook. So for those who haven't read Hush Hush, the story follows Nora, who is a sophomore in high school in her local town. Her life is quite uneventful and quite boring until she is paired in her biology class with Pudge, which is the ugliest name ever that you can pick. But yeah, Pudge is a senior in her high school and who is also quite flirty and problematic, which is literally the contrary of her, right? And even though she finds him slightly creepy because of all the flirty jokes that he makes, she feels like she can't stop herself from being attracted to this guy, right? And obviously she doesn't know if it's because he is problematic and that's something that she likes, or if there's something else. But then slowly her life starts getting weirder and weirder, and strange things are happening in her life that are literally a danger to herself, right? So she discovers that all these attempts to her life that she has encountered in the past weeks are all related to Patch. Obviously, I don't want to give that many spoilers just in case you want to read the book, but first of all, the first thing that I have to say is that I read this book when I was a teenager, okay? So if you want to judge me, go ahead, because yeah, I judge myself as well. But also, this was the OG dark romance series that everyone and their uncles were reading. Like, all the girls had read Hush Hush, and 90% of the girls that read Hush Hush actually read the Zayn Malik fan fiction, which I think is such a slay. But honestly, this book should be the supernatural equivalent of Love Island. Like, they should make a reality where supernatural beings are just in an island, and then you will have Hush Hush. Like, you will have the plot of Hush Hush. It's just so good and so messy. So if you want like dark romance, if you want dark problematic romance, and also like a girl that for some reason is always constantly in danger because of everyone else, and also you want like the kind of like dark romancy, jealousy type supernatural vibe, Hush Hush is for you, girl. Like, this one is just, oh my god. I remember I was reading this book, or like I was reading the whole series, and I was like, I need to know what happens next, or I need to know who is the villain, because the suspense is killing me. And now, last but definitely not least, is my favorite romance book that has absolutely changed my brain chemistry. Like, I think the person I was before reading the book and the series overall, and the person that I am after are two completely different people. I'm actually getting goosebumps just by thinking about it. Like, I don't know if you can see them, but I'm getting fucking goosebumps because this book is just that good. Oh my god, I am so obsessed. And the book is Fallen by Lauren Kate, like the whole series, but the first one is just absolutely rewired my brain. For those who haven't read the book, let me just summarize it real quick. Basically, the story follows Luz, who is a 17-year-old girl who is transferred to a reform school, which is more or less half prison, half mental health hospital, something weird and strange. Basically, she's transferred there because she was involved in a very mysterious and strange fire that killed her crush literally just right after kissing her. So obviously people suspect that she was the one that killed him, but even though she's innocent, she is put into this school because she has very strange visions that she sees black figures around her. So therefore they think, people around her think that she struggles with mental health and then accidentally killed Trevor because of him kissing her. During the first few days, she meets quite a lot of strange people that are also in the same situation as her, or that have different similar backgrounds, but are still marginalized. And there is one specific character that she cannot stop herself from being attracted to, which is Daniel Gregory, which for some reason one day absolutely ignores her and just literally stays away from her like the plague. But the next day he cannot stop himself from talking to her and just help her around. And it's because even though apart from her feeling this strange attraction, Daniel feels it too, because there is a strange connection between the two that Daniel only knows. Now, same thing as Hush Hush. Obviously, if you see the titles or if you see the covers, you will obviously understand that this is supernatural as well. And oh my god, I remember reading this book for the first time because I read Fallen before I read Hush Hush, right? And I remember reading Fallen and the whole series, and I was like, this is doing something to me that shouldn't be doing, right? Like, I was obsessed. I saw like angels, demons. I saw like all the religion motifs and all the connections between like the dark past or like the dark Genesis theories of Christianity. And I was like, yep, this is gonna shape who I am as a person. And it did, because now obviously I am obsessed with the dark side of Christianity. You can see all the videos that where I talk about Christianity. But yeah, I remember this series created such a deep obsession and interest through like to the dark side of religion and Christianity, that I don't think I would be the same person if I hadn't read these books. I am just obsessed. And also, I remember I was around 16. I remember reading the first book and thinking, I fucking wish I was Luz. This is the kind of greed that they talk about in the Bible. I was so jealous of Luz, not because I wanted Daniel. I mean, he is a fallen angel. Of course, I will want Daniel, right? But I think I was jealous of Luz because the fact that there is someone that loves you through time and space and is obsessed with you and can't stop himself from falling in love with you, that is the one true sign of true love that I devour. Like, I am so obsessed with it, right? And it's something that, like, I think that's the truest form of love. I don't care if it's not realistic, and I don't care if that's just imagination. This is the kind of love that I'm looking for. Like, this is the kind, like, if someone tells me, like, I know that I met you in my past life and I was in love with you, I would be like, say less. say fucking less. Like, oh my god, this is the kind of greed that they talk about in the Bible. That's like, I think 12 years have passed since I read this book, or like 13 years have passed since I read this book, and I still feel myself feeling angry because of all the jealousy and envy that I have. Okay, so this is the kind of thing that I'm looking for. Oh my god, I'm getting goosebumps just by thinking about it. These are all the romance book recommendations that I have at the moment. Obviously, because it's February and it's the love month, and as some people put it, I am reading some romance books as well at the moment, which I will obviously review for you guys. So just pay attention to my channel if you want to see more romance recommendations that I enjoy. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you read the books. I hope you read Fallen. I want to hear your opinion through this. Take into account that I was 16, okay? That's the first thing that I have to say. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please follow and subscribe if you did. And also you can follow me on my social media. I post a lot of content around there. So yeah, follow me if you want. And if you have any recommendations or like any romance recommendations that you would like for me to read, please put it on my comments. I would love some recommendations, obviously, as you know. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next week. Bye guys.